Good morning. This morning I was reading John chapter 7 and 8. And one thing that really jumped out at me was how this really applies to us today with all the social issues we've got. We've got the social issues that are really the hot topics nowadays of homosexuality. We've got a split in the churches because of the homosexuality. We've got transgenderism, that's a big thing now. We've got abortion, that's a hot topic today. And verses 7 and 8 really talk to those social issues. And what was happening in 7 and 8 is Jesus was being accused by the Pharisees and the religious leaders of having a demon. And because he was speaking truth, they didn't like the truth. They didn't want to hear the truth. So they kept pushing him away and saying, "You've got a demon." And Jesus in turn says, No, I'm not the one with the demon. Y'all are living under your father's desires, and that's the devil. You've got the demon. And it's pretty interesting to see the contrast between the two as they go about having discussion with one another. But listen at this. This will give you an idea of the contrast. In John 7, verse 18, he says, "He who speaks from himself seeks his own glory, but he who seeks the glory of the one who sent him is true, and no unrighteousness is in him." He's talking about he's seeking the glory of his Father, not himself, but he's always looking to glorify the Father. All right, then he goes on, and look at the contrast here. In John 7, verses 16 through 17, "My doctrine is not mine, but he who sent me. If anyone wills to do his will," God's will, "he shall know concerning the doctrine whether it's from God or whether I speak on my own authority." And he goes on in chapter 8, listen to this. He says, "I honor my Father." Verse 50, "I do not seek my own glory." Verse 54, "If I honor myself, my honor is nothing." See, Jesus came here to earth as a humble human to glorify God. He was always seeking to do the will of his Father and glorify him, okay? And think about the social issues, homosexuality. Look, we can look at any of the sin that's put out in Scripture, but let's talk about the ones that are hot topics for conversation piece. Homosexuality. We deserve to be happy. We want to be happy. God doesn't want us to be unhappy. We should be happy. It's all focused on self-worth, happiness within ourselves. That's all it's focused on. Abortion. I should be able to control my own body. I shouldn't have to look at what God's will is. I should be able to make my own decisions. Transgenderism. Oh, I know what's best for me. I feel this. I feel that. It's all focused on self. Just as the Pharisees were focused on themselves as they were claiming that Jesus had a demon, okay? But Jesus turned around and listen to what he says, because they're not focused on the will of God. Look at what he says. He says, "Why do you not understand my speech? Because you are not able to listen to my word. You are of your father, the devil, and the desires of your father you want to do. He was a murderer from the beginning and does not stand in truth, because there's no truth in him. When he speaks a lie, he speaks from his own resources, for he's a liar and the father of it. But because I tell you the truth, you do not believe me. Which of you convicts me of sin? And if I tell you the truth, why do you not believe me?" Listen to this. "He who is of God hears God's words. Therefore, you do not hear, because you are not of God." Strong language. And that's verses of chapter 8. That's verses 43 through 47. Listen to what he says here. "If God were your father, you would love me." Okay? If if God were your Father, you would love me. Jesus defines love in chapter 14 of John. He defines love as being obedient to his will. He goes on and says in verse 51 of chapter 8, he says, if anyone keeps my word, he shall never see death. So he's continuing to focus on being obedient to the will of God, being obedient to his word, which is the words of God. And he goes on and he says this in verse 54 through 56. Listen to what he says. If I honor myself, my honor is nothing. It is my Father who honors me, of whom you say that he is your God. Yet you have not known him, but I know him. And if I say I do not know him, I shall be a liar like you. But I do know him, and I keep his word. So, as we go out throughout the day, let's not focus on self. Let's focus on the will of God. Let's focus on honoring and glorifying him and being of God as opposed to being of the world. Because the world is going to pull us away from that narrow path. And our focus should be on glorifying God in our speech, in our actions, and everything we do. And let's go out and bring people to his kingdom as opposed to push them out of his kingdom. Y'all have a blessed day.